All right, so good evening. My name is Courtney. Welcome to our virtual Wayland Great Presenters event. Tonight, we are excited to hear from John Toto and Doug Ellis on the history, secrets, and future of the Freemasons. John Toto has been a Mason for 10 years and a Wayland resident for 26 years. He is a member of the Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge in Lincoln, and in Masonic circles, Mr. Toto's title is Right Worshipful. He served as the District Deputy Grand Master, representing the Grand Master to over 1,000 Masons in the towns of Ayer, Burlington, Bedford, Concord, Lexington, Lincoln, and Littleton. Mr. Toto is a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason and a member of the Shriners and several York Rite bodies, including the Knights Templar. Doug Ellis has been a Mason for 13 years and is a member of the Corinthian Lodge in Concord, which was chartered by Paul Revere when he was Grand Master in 1797. Mr. Ellis also served as District Deputy Grand Master, representing the Grand Master in the same towns as Mr. Toto. Mr. Ellis is a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason, an officer in the Royal Arch and Cryptic Masonic bodies, and a member of the Knights Templar. Outside of Freemasonry, his passions include history and American heritage as past captain and current officer of the Concord Minutemen. So before we get started, I have a couple housekeeping notes. First, we are recording this session for broadcast on Waycam, our cable access station, so you'll see it there, and you will be able to also access it on YouTube. Second, I recommend switching your view to speaker view as opposed to gallery view, so that you'll see the speaker next to their slides. Third, feel free to enter your questions into the chat at any point, and I will either shout them out during the talk or we'll get to them during a Q&A at the end. And finally, feel free to use the chat to message me and Courtney if you're having any technical troubles. So now that I've got that all out of the way, I will hand it over to Mr. Ellis.
Thank you very much, Courtney, and welcome everyone. It's an honor to be here, and it's a lot of fun to talk about Freemasonry and especially the history. I'm a history geek. Concord Minutemen, Concord, Massachusetts, Freemasonry. From what I've learned, they all go hand in hand. But I'll be more than happy to start off with kind of a history of Freemasonry's humble beginnings. Courtney, if you can go to the first slide. So the legendary beginnings go back to the building of the pyramids and the skills that the Israelites developed and the foremen came up with in designing and building and putting together all of this. This was legendarily carried back with them to Israel and for the building of King Solomon's Temple, which is very much referred to in a lot of the Freemasonry teachings as kind of an allegory for building your own personal temple. And later, as legend has it, spread to England during the king of King Athelstan in 900 AD. Next slide. Operative Masonry, as we refer to it, people who actually work as Masons, started during the Middle Ages. They were the cathedral builders. They traveled great distances and worked on different projects. They moved from city to city, sometimes reportedly from country to country. And in doing so, there were a couple of things that were necessary. One, they had trade secrets. This was an ancient guild, and these things weren't written down. So they had to be able to communicate to each other who was the master and who was an apprentice. So a master mason only knew certain secrets. So that's where the secrets really started from. So it was a handshake, or it was a sign, or it was some other way that they could communicate this. It was of great value to be able to identify yourself as a master mason. Next. And also in traveling, they had to meet up necessarily with many different cultures and many different beliefs. And in doing so, they needed to form tolerance and understand each other and come together on what united them, not what divided them. So this is one of the bases of Freemasonry today that carries on. Some of the things that we don't talk about is politics and religion. Those are two topics that we are not allowed to talk about in Lodge because those are things that divide people. Next slide. So going back to early written constitutions of lodges before it was really formalized, they had definitions of the organization. Today, we have everything. We have our bylaws. Every lodge has its own bylaws. Very, very organized, very organized. The common rules back then that were kind of similar from a lot of the lodges were a master mason must be steadfast, steady, and true. An entered apprentice must work for his master for 7 years and must teach in the craft of masonry. So it's the idea of sharing and giving to others what you've learned. A master mason must not undertake any work that he can't finish. I think those are great words of advice to anybody. The craftsman must love God, his holy charge, master and fellows. So that's also something that Masons still have in common. We all have a belief in God, and we all care for, in priority, God, your country, your neighbor, and yourself. Craftsmen must obey the assembly of Masons for forsaking the craft and being imprisoned. The craft must be helpful one another and by instructing those that are deficient in the knowledge and skill. And most importantly, do not talk with food in your mouth, pick your teeth, or blow your nose in your napkin at dinner. I thought that one was rather interesting.
We have a question already, Doug.
Sure.
So I think this is a contemporary question. What technologies do Masons master now? Building, electrical, mechanical?
None of the above.
Okay.
We'll get to that very shortly.
Okay.
We're working our way through. So the days of the grand cathedrals came to an end, but a lot of these traditions still held on. In 1666, this great fire in London almost destroyed the city. And again, a lot of this is just kind of some of the origins, and I'm sure there was a lot of different origins. But during this period, we start seeing the organization of more and more of these speculative lodges, where gentlemen, nobility, people of culture start adopting some of this. So there's a fire, and then they brought in more and more operative Masons, but they started learning these traditions and this way of life of caring for each other, and that really brought in more people to be speculative Masons. So today, more and more of us are speculative Masons. So we come with whatever skills we have, not necessarily in masonry or craftsmanship, but we come together on common beliefs. Next. So the first Grand Lodges, so this is when they finally came together as larger organizations and standardized a lot of the ceremonies, the rules, the way of going about business. Grand Lodge of England came first in 1717, which a few years ago celebrated its 300th anniversary. Grand Lodge of Ireland was second, which really was a spin-off of England, but they were independent and had their own thing. Massachusetts was given a charter in 1733 from the Grand Lodge of England, but operated by and large independently. And I could go into the story of that and different Grand Lodges, and there's a whole lot to that. I can talk for an hour on that alone. Grand Lodge of Scotland came along in 1736. So, I mean, this is important here. So of all the Freemasons in the world, the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts is the third oldest. So that's something that we are particularly proud of. And if you look at these pictures, you've got the Grand Lodge of England up in the upper right. And there's some taverns over to the left that you don't see. Now it's kind of a side story. in England to this day, they are some of them are very, very secretive. I was there maybe 3 years ago, and I went into one pub, the Freemasons pub, and there were guys who were clearly just came out of lodge, and none of them would acknowledge that they were Masons. I didn't know why. I went into one a couple doors down, same kind of thing. Brother, how are you? And we had a great time. And it was like meeting family that I had never met before. So it's yeah, it was quite an experience. Moving down to the center left, that's the Grand Lodge of Ireland. Very, very beautiful building. They meet in that room today. To the right of that is actually in Boston at the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts. That's actually Corinthian Hall, where we sometimes, actually our lodge has sometimes met there. Our Corinthian Lodge has met in Corinthian Hall because we can, and it's an absolutely dead gorgeous room. And down below is the Grand Lodge of Scotland. Okay, next slide. So Massachusetts, first Grand Lodge chartered in 1733. As we said, many famous Massachusetts Masons. Ben Franklin, you might commonly think of as Pennsylvania, but he was born and raised in Boston. Paul Revere, of course, John Hancock, of course, Joseph Warren. I don't know how many people are familiar with Joseph Warren, but he was a very, very outspoken leader of early in the Revolution, and actually lost his life in the Battle of Bunker Hill in 1775. So he really didn't get very far into the Revolution, but his contribution is undeniable. And to this day, one of the greatest honors that you can get in Freemasonry is to receive the Joseph Warren Service Medal. Major General Henry Knox, also a key player in the Revolutionary War. He is the one who, he was a bookseller originally. He dragged the cannons across the frozen Massachusetts and put it up on the hill in Dorchester to pin the regulars into the city so they couldn't cross the Boston Neck. Okay, next slide. So Colonial Freemasonry, lots of presidents, Constitution. If you're familiar with Freemasonry and you read these documents, they are very Masonic, talking about equality, talking about rights. George Washington could have gone on to be the king, but he didn't. He wanted something where it was shared and where it was, which is something that we also do. Next slide. George Washington, we're talking about the laying of, before the started, we were talking about the time capsule that was found in the Capitol. And, you know, of course, Freemasons, we put it there long, long ago, and we knew exactly what was inside. Same thing in the US Capitol. There was a Masonic cornerstone laying ceremony. The trowel actually is there's a replica trowel on display at the Capitol building. The actual trowel is actually in Alexandria in the George Washington Memorial. Okay. Today in this area, which is which John and I refer to as 14th District, or the best district ever. We've got in Lexington, there's two lodges, Washington Lodge, which was chartered by Paul Revere when he was Grand Master in 1796, as well as Simon W. Robinson, which was chartered in 1870. Corinthian Lodge, also chartered by Paul Revere, 1797, although Freemasonry was in Concord through its members prior to that, even up to the beginning of the Revolution. In Lincoln, Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge. I mentioned Joseph Warren earlier. There was a Joseph Warren Lodge and a Soley Lodge that merged, making Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge. Caleb Butler and Ayer, Littleton to Hadouan Lodge, some of the new ones. Concord, formerly Bedford, Frank W. Thompson Lodge in 1955. Okay. So this, in this area, there are well over 1,000 Masons. This was taken a few years back when I was the district deputy. Every month we hold what we call a Lodge of Instruction, which is usually in Concord. And this is inside the Lodge building in Concord. And you can see we've got the altar, you can see all the men there. And it's just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful thing. And with that, I'll turn it over to John.
Fantastic, Doug. That's thank you.
Unless there's any questions, of course.
Yeah, I was about to ask.
I welcome interruptions, by the way.
Yeah.
I say that as I'm done. So.
I see one question. Was Dwight Eisenhower a Mason?
No.
No. Okay.
Bill Clinton went through DeMolay, which is kind of the boys youth organization, but he did not become a master Mason with that. Abraham Lincoln, in his letter writing, wanted to become a Mason, and said, "As soon as I am done with my presidency, I would like to join you fellows."
Oh, nice.
So that never happened.
No.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation who was and who wasn't and so forth, but that list is generally accepted as that. Right. I see before I begin, I see a question. I'm curious about the pyramid, and that's probably an allusion to maybe the dollar bill, or as well. There's the Eye of Providence, which the Eye of Providence is really seen in lots of different types of organizations and cultures, and we certainly, when the Masons gather, we look up and we all agree on one supreme being, and pyramids. Doug, maybe you can address that. I know, the building of the pyramids, there is some imagery and some.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally legend. There's absolutely no facts that to back that up. So it makes for a great story. The pyramids, I think it's just pure imagery. I don't believe that there's anything Masonic about the bill at all. The eye does represent, yes, we use it in Freemasonry to represent, the supreme being who's always watching you, but that's not purely Masonic. I mean, many cultures have a deity who they believe is watching over them. So I think they use that, America under God, and I think the pyramids is just really a symbol of permanence and something that is built to last.
I agree, and Masonry, the imagery of building and either building or buildings are very important for teaching the lessons that we learn. So again, I'm John Toto. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you tonight. I think I saw a question that somebody thought there was a woman in that in there, but I can tell you, although it is interesting, there is not a woman, but this is one of the few places, a Lodge of Instruction, that can be what we call opened to the public. So sometimes we'll have a speaker that we think, oh, this would be great for the wives to listen to, and the community at large to listen to. And so we have certainly opened up the Lodge of Instruction. This happens to be Doug's home lodge, or what we call the Blue Lodge, his Blue Lodge, in Concord, the Corinthian Lodge. And before I really, I am beginning, I guess. Let me give you a little understanding of, and I guess the question was, can a woman be a Mason? And the quick answer is no. It is a fraternity. As I remind people, it's a fraternity of men. So just men, but there are women's organizations, Eastern Star, Daughters of Job. There's quite a few within all the different.
Amaranth, Order of the Amaranth. Yep.
Yep, correct, Doug. So there's numerous, and a lot of lodges really encourage the partners of the members to come to dinner, come to lunches, come to the breakfast. Corinthian makes one of the great breakfasts in our district. And then there are other events that are for specifically widows and our sweethearts. So one of the things that didn't happen during my my tenure as District Deputy Grand Master, we were planning a sweetheart dinner on Valentine's, or right around Valentine's Day, actually just past Valentine's Day, and then the whole thing just collapsed, of course, and we all kind of went the Zoom way. So hopefully things will start opening up. But before we leave this slide, we'll stay in here just a second. I just want to point out a few things for everyone, and just kind of give you an idea of the kind of the basics of the structure of Freemasonry. By structure, the organization. At 186 Tremont Street, that beautiful building in Boston on Tremont Street, obviously right there across from the Common, is where the Grand Master sits, and that is Grand Lodge. And that particular Grand Lodge has been there from about 1900. The previous one, as many buildings did, it burnt down, and they had rebuilt it, and then I think it burnt down one more time, and now finally have the big granite structure at 186 Tremont Street. So the Grand Master sits there, and it's somewhat top down in a way. The Grand Master, obviously, he has a board of directors, and from there he has 30 some odd district deputy Grand Masters, and we're each assigned a district. This district happens to be the 14th district, and as Doug said, we consider it the best district ever, because we love the district and the lodges and the brethren in them. And by the way, we always refer to our members as brethren. That's what we call, the brethren at this lodge, the brethren at that lodge. And Doug would be considered, I would call him my brother. So you have the Grand Master, the District Deputy Grand Masters, then you have the Masters of the Lodge, which are called Worshipful Masters. These are Old English terms. That's what they come from. So we just adopted it here in the States because it was before we became the States. So everything was English, and we continue on with it. And then within the lodge is set up as you see it. You're not seeing the whole lodge. There's a couple of other slides we'll get to. You'll see a little bit more. But there's always an altar in the middle of the lodge, and there's always a book of sacred scripture. That book can be any sacred scripture, but it has to be this is at the end of the lodge, because I know that of the lodge meeting, because the book is closed. When the lodge is in session and we're doing work, our business meetings, so forth, that book is open. The Bible is open, because nothing important should take place unless a prayer is done and you give your kind of acknowledge a higher deity. Doesn't have to be a Christian deity. It could be any deity, as long as it's monotheistic. The master, where you're looking at where Doug is in his hat there, by the way, the District Deputy Grand Master always wears a top hat. The only time he does not wear a top hat is when the Grand Master is in the lodge, and then because the Grand Master has a tricorn hat. And as soon as the Grand Master comes in lodge, the District Deputy Grand Master takes off his hat. And actually, that's the same way with the Master of the Lodge. The Master of the Lodge will also remove his hat, his top hat, when the District Deputy comes in, acknowledging that he is the higher authority in the lodge. The lodge is set up east to west. We're looking east. That's where the master sits, or that's where the district deputy sits or the grand master sits. Across from them is the senior warden. There's a junior warden in the south, and in the north, which is over to the left-hand side, there is nothing over there. There's what we call darkness in the north. It's really the place of beginnings, and the initiates, when they first come into the lodge, are placed in the northeast corner for instruction. And then there's a whole ritual that goes on. Entered apprentice, first degree, fellow craft, second degree, master mason, third degree. And there are different rituals, basically telling of stories, if you will, that happen within the lodge. And the candidate is initiated, and he takes an obligation. So that obligation, he goes with him forever. There's an obligation for the first, second, and third degree. And there, some secrets will be revealed, certain grips will be revealed. And the importance, people say, of the handshake, we call it grips. The reason, and Doug alluded to it a little bit, is master masons, real master masons, operative, that were building the cathedrals. These men were looked up to. They were almost godlike in certain ways, because they were the ones that could build things without cement. They could put together stones in such perfect ways. So you don't have a calling card. You're not on LinkedIn back in the back in 1500, 16. You're not. People can't look you up and can't call them on your cell phone. So what do they have? And they guard it jealously. They had a grip, and only master masons had a grip. Fellow crafts had a grip and entered apprentice, but a master mason had a very particular grip that only other master masons would know. So they would know, oh, we know he's gone through all this required education. So in masonry, we use that sort of building, and we particularly use the building of King Solomon's Temple as a sort of an allegory. We use that to teach lessons, life lessons, lessons that every man and mankind should know. So that's kind of the overall view of kind of the structure, organization of masonry. You can go to the next slide, Courtney. Well, you saw all the people surrounding Doug, and there I am with my hands in the air saying, where is everyone?
I think you showered that day. I'm not sure, but I think you did.
I'm telling you, I did.
Yeah.
And I look great there. Look at that. One thing you'll notice, everyone, is what am I wearing? I'm wearing gloves on my hand. These gloves right here. Actually has the symbol of the district deputy grand master, and purple is the color, as my tie and Doug's tie will attest. We wear gloves. All masons, and I should say all officers in the lodge, wear gloves. Why do they wear gloves? Because masons don't care what you do for a living. And that may sound nice now, but years and years ago, it was very important. Because if you were a ditch digger or a laborer, your hands would be calloused. No one wants to know what you do. We don't care what people do, and I'll get into that. What we care about is who you are in your heart, in your soul. So we do that so everyone is on the level. And by the way, on the level, that is a Masonic term. Just like black bulb. So yes, this slide is basically I'm just telling you a little bit of what's going to come up. Who becomes a mason? What are the qualifications? Are there benefits? I think there are. Doug, are there benefits? I hope so.
There are definitely benefits.
There definitely are benefits.
Yep.
And who has those secrets? I may have a secret or two. Doug may have a secret. I don't know. We're going to share a couple anyways. All right, a couple of things. So in the Lodge of Instruction, one of the things that we talk about is making good men better. So when people say, well, what do Masons do? What do you guys do? Well, we make good men better. Well, in a Lodge of Instruction like this, if it wasn't COVID, you can see I have a mask on and so forth. Usually we would have a speaker. We would have a speaker. We had speakers on men's health, men's mental health, time management, how to dress fashionably. That was a great one. Beer making. Who doesn't like beer making? Public speaking, leadership, project management, you name it. A lot of the learning happens in the Lodge of Instruction, as you can tell by the name. And of course, that just goes into the lodges with other forms of learning and so forth. One of the things that Masons say is we're always searching for the light. We're always searching, going from dark to light. What we want to do is we want to become better. Whatever that means to each person, we're there for each other. One of the things you won't see it in this photo. It's in the West. In every single lodge, when I bring people in a lodge, I say, why do you have these two rocks? There's what we call a rough ashlar and a smooth ashlar, and they're basically pieces of granite. And what it is you come in as a rough ashlar. You've got rough edges. You've got things that have to be smoothed out, and eventually, in time, and as you learn more, and your brothers help you, you'll become that smooth ashlar. It's just you're basically on a path for higher learning and really improving yourself, self-improvement. Next slide, Courtney, please.
We just have one quick question.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Can the public see the inside of the lodge?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
You just reach out. Again, one of the misconceptions is it's all secret behind there and so forth. No, we're easily identified. There's right behind me is the Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge, and right behind Doug, it's an older picture from what,
1882, yeah.
But it looks about the same.
Yeah, it does look the same. 1820 it was built, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's right, the Corinthian Lodge is right next to the Colonial Inn, and Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge is right down the street from, right around the corner from Drumlin Farm. I'm sure most all of you have seen it. You can always contact us, and if you want to just take a look through and have a Mason talk to you like I'm talking to you, more than happy. And whether it's a woman or a man, it doesn't make a difference. We're happy to talk to the community.
Yeah, and on for Corinthian, if you go to concordmasons.org, I have a guest book there, and if you leave contact information, people can leave a note. If you want to see the building, I will personally go down and give you a tour because I love talking about our building.
Oh, he does. He does.
I really do.
And I can guarantee you, there are secrets in that building. I won't.
That building continues to give up secrets.
It does. It certainly does.
I learned of a time capsule this week. Another time capsule, I should add.
See, even this week you learned of something new.
Yep.
It's amazing. Didn't Doug remind me? Did Emerson teach there, or did I forget what the
Thoreau taught there?
Thoreau taught there.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. Thoreau taught and was fired from teaching in that school. Yes.
He didn't do a very good job.
He wouldn't administer corporal punishment.
Ah, all right. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? That makes sense. And right there, and it happened right in your midst.
Yep. Daniel Chester French learned sculpture there from Louisa May Alcott's sister, or so the story goes. It was a schoolhouse on the first floor and the lodgeman on the second floor. That's
amazing. Beautiful, beautiful building. Beautiful building inside and out. And the one right behind me, Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge, that was a school building. previously, and we converted it, and now it's just it's a wonderful, wonderful place. It sits on 2 acres of land in Lincoln. And as an aside, the Lexington Masonic apartments, we call, a lot of times it has many rooms in it, we call it Masonic apartments, which sits on the Battle Green. That was the first normal school, which eventually moved to Newton, which eventually moved to Framingham. So that's that story. That has all sorts of interesting secrets it holds. So being a Mason is a father helping his son make better decisions, a business leader bringing morality to the workplace, a man working through tough issues in his life, knowing his brothers are there. That's the important thing. You know, we've had, the one thing I like about Masonry, and the one thing that really really warms my soul, is that, you know, men feel very comfortable around other men when there are issues that they have in their lives. And I think my brothers, if I have an issue or a problem or a question or just want to share some happiness, they're the ones, besides my family, that I do that with. And that brings, you know, great joy. I see another question. Is Evelyn Wolfson? Is that Courtney? Or did I already answer a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna see Evelyn. Feel free to unmute if you have a question.
Yeah, if you have.
Well, I'm sure we will hear her when
We will hear from her. No problem. So, who is a typical Mason? There is no typical Mason. Now, I write that, but I'm going to get back to that. Masons come from all walks of life, from corporate CEOs to bus drivers and Uber drivers, from investment bankers and CFOs and CPAs to auto mechanics and literally ditch diggers. What unifies us is not where we come from or what we do for a living, but rather what we aspire to do and how we live. Go back to when I wrote that there's no typical Mason. That really probably refers more to is probably more professional men in this than there are, say, blue collar workers. But then again, there are lodges, and each lodge
depends on where you are.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it depends on where you are. Every lodge is its own, it's a living, breathing thing. There are lodges made up of actually the lodge is made up of Eagle Scouts. That's one of our newest lodges. There are lodges made up primarily of folks of Asian descent and folks who are Jewish. There are lodges of all different, you know, people tend to gravitate to different lodges. What I like about it, though, is everyone enjoys being together. Everyone enjoys what doesn't make a difference what lodge it is. Everyone wants to visit, and I just find that just amazing that the breaking down of any sort of barriers. It just is. It's just gone, and I love that about it. So in terms of the typical Mason, you know, I said everyone who's on this Zoom call knows someone, an uncle, a friend, someone they work with, someone they say to them, wow, you know, that guy is really a superstar. He's really fantastic. You know, he'll drop anything, help you out, you know, do this or that. Those are the guys usually who we find walk through the door. Would you agree with me? Isn't that?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we also want to have good men. We say good men, we make them better. We don't want to have average. I say, and I've said this as a district deputy grand master. I don't want guys who are just average guys. I want to have people who are already at a certain stage, who know that they need improvement and they want to go to that next level. We're there to help them. So we'll get into a little bit about what it takes to be a Mason afterwards. Next slide, Courtney, please. Oh,
Actually, we got a question.
We have a question. Yep.
We do have a question from Evelyn. Can you tell us what happened to the wonderful museum in Lexington?
Well, the museum in Lexington is still there.
Heritage Museum.
Yeah, the Heritage Museum is still there. Doug, do you know anything different? I know that they closed the gift shop up there.
Yeah, they carved out some of the space, but it's still there. The vaults. We get some tours. We've had tours of the museum and the vaults, and they've got more downstairs in the basement than they do upstairs. But yeah, the library and the museum is still there and totally what it was. They haven't given up any of their artifacts. Yeah.
And if you go to their website, they do have, I haven't seen it recently, but I know within the last year, I haven't been there, but I was sent some programming they had and some virtual tours and so forth.
What happened was there was a building that was kind of on the other side of the parking lot that was the headquarters of the northern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite. And they sold that building, and everybody who worked in that building had to move into the museum building. So they had to carve out some space to make for offices and things. So they did a little bit of remodeling, but otherwise it's still there. I think they don't call it, I think, the Museum of the National Heritage. I think they just call it the Scottish Rite Museum. So the name may have changed a little bit, but it's exactly the same organization it's always been.
Correct.
And John, seeing these, there's a couple
more
questions.
See a couple of came up. I think one was concerning, are there lodges carved out just for doctors, lawyers, accountants?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Not that I'm aware of.
And I am a member of 4 lodges. So there's that answer. The last one, can a Muslim be? And absolutely, any deity at all is fine. As a matter of fact, we've had, I remember we've had cases where you've got the Quran on the altar, and the Holy Bible on the altar, and during the ceremonies, and it's absolutely beautiful for new initiates. That is their sacred scripture. And coming together as people, it's great.
Exactly, because we don't get we don't discern the religion. And Doug is right. We don't talk politics. We don't talk religion in lodge. Now, outside of lodge, some guys may talk and whatever. But I've been in some of those conversations, and let me tell you. It's like I was going back to the days of Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, I guess, where you could disagree but not be disagreeable. No name calling, very respectful. I like that. Again, this is not in lodge. This might be the guys get together over at the Colonial Inn for a drink or something afterwards and talk about the items of the day. With that, but always respectful, and doesn't the world need more of that? Let's see, maybe the next slide, Courtney.
There's one more question. I think the average age.
Oh, the average. That's average age. It depends on the lodge. We have lodges in the 14th district. I've seen recently some of the numbers. We've got lodges whose average age is in the 60s, and we've got lodges whose average age are in the low 50s. So what we are seeing recently, as you can imagine, the numbers of Masons have gone down, and the reason for that is you've had, several reasons. You've had a tremendous amount of Masons joining after World War II, a tremendous amount. Then you had the kind of backlash against anything that Dad joined and the establishment in the late 60s and 70s. So then that kind of dipped. So all these older guys now are sadly passing away. I joined 10 years ago, so that makes me, I was 45, so I'm 55. So we're seeing a lot of guys joining, I'm going to say 40 to 50. We're seeing quite a few in their 20s joining. I'm seeing less and less guys joining who are, say, 65 years old or something, although that certainly does happen with that. But certainly the trend is down. I think.
Keep in mind too that when you're a Mason, it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
So, and you don't retire from Freemasonry. We've got an active member, and I mean active, who is 95. He's absolutely remarkable, World War II vet. He he was on a meeting that was on early, I think Thursday, and he had heart surgery the next day. And I understand he's doing fine. We also have 20-somethings, several of them in our lodge in Corinthian. And at this point, actually in Corinthian, and things change. We've got 75% of our officers are under 40 years old, actually, which is pretty amazing. So very young lodge there. However, you look at the broader membership of the 135 or so brothers we've got, and it probably does come to around 63, 64 years old.
Yep.
But
the guys living in Florida.
It's a huge span.
Yeah, it is. But again, the trend is younger and younger, and we're seeing quite a few in their 20s. After you play all the video games and after you do all the, this, that, and the other thing, it's like, well, what is there?
Right.
And especially for men, keep in mind, there's a lot of groups for a lot of people in this world, especially now, depending on who you are, what you are, how you identify, so forth and so on through the spectrum. And that's great. That's fantastic. What's needed is men's groups. Being a man in this world is difficult. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of, everyone has stress. But when you think about it, how many men's organizations do you know of? And this has always been a very important organization for men to do good things, to become better men, to have other men tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, let me help you with this, or hey, I heard this, let's talk. You can't, that's just invaluable. And that's what's going to propel us into the future, is that more and more people realize, my God, we need this in society. This is important with that. With that, I think the next slide is actually a little 2-minute video. Do you have that, Courtney?
I do. Bear with me 1 second.
Fantastic. I can take a breath, take a drink. It's water, don't worry. Volume. I'm not hearing it.
Sorry, is Doug hearing it?
No, I'm not hearing it either.
I'm not hearing it.
All right, I'm sorry.
Technology.
Darn.
Didn't I tell you? Technology. It's going to bite you. It does every time.
Yep. And it worked on our pre-show.
It did twice.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Maybe use the one that was embedded. Who knows?
Let's try that.
Yeah. Might be a little smaller, but that's okay.
Not having any luck here.
I knew this is where it would go sideways.
I know.
Oh, that's fine.
That's okay.
Let's go on and I'll work on it. Maybe we can come back to this one.
That's fine. We can go to the next slide. There it is, the square and compass. And the letter G, does anyone know what the letter G means in the middle of that square and compass? Maybe people can chat the answer, and that's maybe I'll tell you the secret. Doug, am I allowed to say that secret? What the G is? Oh,
yeah, I think so.
okay, don't tell the Grand Master. Oh, somebody said God. That is a
correct answer.
I would give that as a correct answer. And there's another meaning of that letter G. And that would be the first letter, yes, of geometry. Maybe someone quickly Googled that. I don't know. But yes, we were talking about building. So there you have a square and you have a compass. One of the things we talk about in Masonry is to circumscribe your passions, your desires, or actually circumscribe your desires and keep your passions, your emotions, your over emotions in check with everyone, not just your brothers, but all mankind. And I think, and we get told this over and over again, that you know, it's basically the same saying as check yourself, right? That's what it is. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's a rap tune, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
It might be a couple of years older than me.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a rap tune. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, and that's exactly what it is. Circumscribe those extra passions. It's important. Again, as we see today, we don't have to talk about it. We know what we're talking about. All the passions that are going on in the world around us. As Masons, we're taught to circumscribe that, to tone it down, to view not just your brother, but mankind in a loving way. When we say brotherly love, we talk about brotherly love all the time, and that's not just for our brothers, but for everyone. So, faith, hope, and charity, and the most important of those is charity. And again, that gets drilled into every Mason. In other words, what are you going to do not for yourself? Because what we do for ourselves dies with us. What we have done for others and the world remains and is immortal. That's a Masonic, famous Masonic quote. So what do the Masons do? My goodness, that's another several hours. But the quick one is I put up there. Masons raise over $2 million per day for charity. Over 70% goes to the general public. That's a lot of money. Much of that is the Shriners and the orthopedic hospitals. That is Masonic controlled, basically. And that's for anyone to use, not Masons. And I want to say, I have a number here. Yeah, in Boston alone, it treats over 3,500 children each year in Boston. So that charity is just phenomenal. 80% of the blood for the Red Cross in Massachusetts, 80% of the blood that the Red Cross gets in Massachusetts is from the Masons. The Masons, it's almost as if we have the blood needle in our arm and we're rolling. We have there's all sorts of fundraisers and blood mobiles that come, and then we run it ourselves. We also do the chips, identifying the kids. I want to say, I've got a number here, over 300,000 Massachusetts children have participated in that program. Let me tell you, the amount of charity that we do, each lodge does. It's not, I'm not talking Grand Lodge does a whole, but I think they give Doug something like 200,000 in scholarships.
Yeah.
They give, you know, when I was a district deputy Grand Master, you know, I was informed if someone in your community needs something, and the lodge is doing something, but you need something else, come to us. You know, we can give you a quick 500, quick 1,000, quick $1,500, or gift cards or whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
And it's a great feeling to call up when I'm in Lincoln, or call up in Wayland and say, before Christmas or Thanksgiving, what do you need? What do you need? Lincoln told us, well, we're thinking of doing, I think it was, they were looking for $400 in gift cards and so on and so on. They gave us kind of a little list there. We just gave them $2,000 of gift cards, and they couldn't believe it. And then we gave another 1,500 or maybe 2,000 to the food bank. So that's just our lodge itself.
Right.
Doug's lodge, Corinthian, does that and then some.
Yeah, we did. We took care of 102 families for Christmas presents this year with gift cards. And the gift cards we got from local businesses. So this year they were especially hurting. So we helped out local businesses in the mix. And it was about 2 weeks ago, there was a fire in Boxborough at an apartment building. And one of the brothers had, you know, a friend, not a Mason, a single woman actually with 2 kids, who was put out. Everything that they owned was destroyed. He set up a GoFundMe page. He reached out to the lodges, and within a couple of days, they had $10,000 in cash, and you know, all the kind of, you know, household goods that they would need to get them over the hump. So I mean, that's real world stuff. There it is. You know, just people waiting to do something good.
Yeah, yeah. Every lodge has a charitable committee. Every lodge has funds set up for charity. There are lodges that have funds, you know, say they might have $5,000 of funds set up for charity. They might have $200,000 in funds for charity. Every lodge is different. Every lodge is different, and some lodges raise money and then they give it away. So working in the community, giving it to the community, that's what they do. Now, I can tell you, both my daughters were recipients of scholarships from my lodge. Then one of the other lodges came up to me and he said, I know you have 2 kids, this and that. Please apply for our scholarship. And I said, well, I'm not a member of your lodge. It doesn't make a difference. Anyone can apply for it in the community. So they were very fortunate to get money, or I should say I was very fortunate, let me tell you. I'm almost done. One May, and my last one will be out of Georgetown. So thank God. Let's see. Next slide, Courtney, please.
Would you like me to try that video one more time?
Oh, if it goes, yeah, beautiful.
Okay, hold on.
We have a winner.
Being a man used to be simpler. You guard the cave, provide sustenance, honor thy name. A handshake sealed the deal, and a word was a promise. Today, things are a bit more complicated. We try to impress people we don't know by acquiring things we don't need. We have friends lists, but few real friendships. Things like integrity and kindness have fallen by the wayside. How can we know if we measure up when the scale is constantly changing? The Freemasons believe that a man's job is to be the best version of himself possible. To pursue truth and self-discovery. give more and take less. We connect with our fellow man so that we may learn from each other, to challenge one another to live up to our highest ideals. We believe a man should be judged by his strength of character, his willingness to make sacrifices to improve both himself and the lives of those around him. For hundreds of years, the Freemasons have helped men find more meaning, to make connections with other men in a way that truly matters. For those seeking a deeper sense of purpose, a chance to make lasting friendships. To reach higher, to find more.
Perfect. Excellent.
Whoops.
Oh, I know something went on. Something's going to come on next. Be careful.
Sorry.
On our deathbed.
Oh gosh. Sorry, one second.
You're not.
You know, I love that video. I love what it says in 2 minutes. It basically put everything I'm saying in 2 minutes, which would be great. Since I'm a little long-winded, but there it is. You know, you give back more than you take. It's the stuff of yesteryear. It's the good stuff of yesteryear that you want all men and everyone to be. And there we are. What the world needs now are more Freemasons. Oh goodness, right, Doug? More of us. And you know, that all those faces, man, boy, I missed them all because I haven't seen a lot of them recently. The top right, there you go. There's some guys from Ayer, Caleb Butler Lodge. They're out on a hike. The worshipful master over there created a Facebook group of glamping, hiking, camping, and something else. And he opened up to the community. Anyone can join, and they're just having a great time getting together and going out when you can go into the wilderness and camp and do whatever else you want to do. It's been extremely successful with that. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see the guy with the beard, looks a little bit like Santa Claus. He's not Santa Claus. That's actually the current master of Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge. He's also a NASA scientist, and he actually has secrets. But that's one of our men's breakfasts. We'd open it up to the guys and say, hey, where do you want to go? Colonial Inn, the Wayside Inn. The lodge would pick up the tab, and we'd go out with the guys. Done that numerous times. Doug's Lodge does at the lodge does a breakfast, and 2 other lodges in the district do breakfast. A lot of the lodges throughout
Pre-COVID, of course.
Of course, yeah. We can't do that now.
We'll
but actually, we could kind of do the Ben's breakfast, but it'd be a little separated. And then right below that, sort of in purple, I think some people will recognize that. That's the, and Doug, you've been there with us.
Every year.
Yeah, every year, I know. Boston Pops. And that's yours truly in the middle with 2 former District Deputy Grand Masters right next to me, flanking me. That's the Boston Pops. Talk about things to do. My God, you know, hiking groups, men's breakfasts, widows brunches, ladies lunches, Boston Pops, DC trip, Bermuda trip, goes on and on. Doug, you've got lobster and steak or something in the front lawn?
Yeah, every August we just get together and say we're going to do lobster and steak and whatever anybody else wants, and the cost is $25 or nothing. We really, you know, we don't collect. It's just whatever. It's meant to just bring people together. We started doing it. It was a 90th birthday party once. It was a welcome thing once. We just kept doing it because it was just so much fun. Yeah.
Who doesn't like lobster and steak? Come on.
Yeah, we get a case of lobsters and about 25 pounds of ribeye.
That's right. And then you guys also kind of run the what is it, the Concord Days on July 4th or
Picnic in
something?
the park. Yeah.
Picnic in the park.
Yeah. And that was an evolution. It's not like we wanted to take it over or anything. I wanted to participate in it years ago. Same committee had been running it for 30 plus years, and they were getting tired of it. All I wanted to do was sell strawberry shortcake, to be honest with you, and make some money there. Before long, you know, the members that were there started backing out, and we needed to keep that event going because it was going to fold. So we've got a brother step forward. He'll be treasurer. My wife is the secretary. We do have non-Masons on the group, but and it's definitely welcome to others. But these days, it's hard to get people to volunteer to do things. And within the Masonic community, I've got lots of people who are willing to make this an outstanding event. So
that's fantastic, and that really proves the point of community involvement. I mean, there was something that was very special to Concord,
yes.
you know, and it was going to go under, and you help resurrect it, and kudos to you and the others that helped you. Again, it's when you need heavy lifting, as I've always said, the Masons are there. Sometimes my daughter will call me and say, "Dad, it's the Masons. They're just unbelievable." She had some sort of group she was belonged to at Georgetown, and they needed some sort of accounting help. And I gave her some names, and then I said, "Oh, did you contact Adam?" And she said, "Oh yeah, contact Adam." And I contact Kevin, and they helped me. Dad, the Masons are just fantastic. I said, "Well, just whenever you need them, they're here." The last picture. And some people are looking at it saying, it looks like a messy garage or closet, or I think I see portable toilets in there. Well, it is. You do see portable toilets and other things. And what that is, and by the way, many lodges have parts of this, but this is what we call HELP, Hospital Equipment Loan Program. And I tell this to everyone who's on this call, because I can assure you, if you haven't needed it, you will need it for yourself, a family member, for sure. And everyone's running around. And I know, yes, what is it? The elder committees usually have some parts of it. The help in Woburn that the Masons run, they have hospital beds. They have electronic wheelchairs. They have ramps. They have Hoyer lifts. They have things that you can just not imagine. It's all free. It's all free. There's no credit card. You take it and then you return it when you don't need it. I've told this to doctors, nurses, and some have known about it. Most did not, and most their mouths were agape when I told them about it because they just couldn't believe it. This is what we do. And people line up at 8 o'clock in the morning. It opens from 9 until 12 on Saturdays. I don't think it's open right now, but and there's a long line because the people know about it. And again, it's 90% of people in the communities who are using it, and people drive great distances to go there. You'll find it online. You can just Google HELP in Woburn, Massachusetts. It's a massive place. That's just one little corner. It's massive. That they have. It's up in one of the Cummings Park, and the Cummings folks are good enough to reduce the rent up there for that organization that does it. Numerous lodges are involved with that there, including the 14th. Next slide, Courtney. We're almost done. How to become a Freemason? Well, you have to be 18 years of age. You have to be a male. It is a fraternity. You have to believe in a supreme being. Those are kind of the ones that has to happen. Then you have to be of good character and morals. There's a background check, criminal background check, and then we do references. We come out to your house, yes we do, and we make sure that your wife is on board with it. We make sure that everyone says, yes, this is great. My husband needs this. He's got like, you know, he needs to get out of the house and so forth. It's wonderful. And, you know, a quick story. I became, well, I entered a lodge and knocked on the door October 18th, 2009. How do I know that? That was my birthday. My wife reminded me as I was doing all my Saturday errands. It was probably one of the first open houses that they did. Before that, Masons in Massachusetts didn't do open houses. And I said, I'm too busy, and I know you're making a cake for me, and blah, blah, blah. And my wife said to me, if you don't do it now, you'll never do it. So I walked through the door, I knocked on that beautiful red lodge behind me, and I started my journey. I became a Mason June 22nd, 2010. It was a very hot day. I remember it clearly. And I went through what we call the line. I became an officer. By the way, all officers wear tuxes because you have to look the part, and it's an important duty. Besides your covering your hands, they all wear tuxes. As I always tell people, make sure you have a tux. But yeah, I became, and that was probably one of the best things and best choices. And my wife would say the same thing. Outside of a couple of times when I was district deputy and I was out a lot, and she said, "You're going out again?" Outside of that, she loved it. She joined me for dinners and events, and the kids, both my girls joined us as well for many things. We visited other lodges. I just can't say enough about it. But yes, in that picture, that's at Corinthian Lodge, Doug's Lodge there. There I am giving some sort of instruction to two new members. You can see that those two members, they're in their 20s, aren't they, Doug?
Yep.
Yeah, both those guys are in their 20s. So that's pretty typical. That was basically last year that you see right there. So next, yes. Why become a Mason? Are there benefits? Well, you're embraced by a fellowship that genuinely cares for each of its members and wants them see them excel and meet life's challenges with strength and integrity. What are some of the benefits? I think giving back to your community is a tremendous benefit. Having a brotherhood of mentors. There are so many guys here, whether they be, there are people you can ask specific questions because they're from a specific profession or whatever. There are guys who are just born leaders. I have two what I would consider really good mentors, and basically they have their hand on my back and they guide me through and whisper in my ear, and I'll tell you, it's fantastic. And I mentor several guys. It's just a wonderful experience. Knowing your brothers are there to help you, and I'll get to that in a second because I needed help. Become friends with good men. Events for the family, self-improvement, being part of something spanning hundreds and hundreds of years. And then all the opportunities, becoming a Shriner, going up to York Rite. That's a whole other thing we can get into. The Scottish Rite and so forth. Next slide, please. Freemasons and the future. Well, we touched upon a little bit of the future, but COVID laid bare the reliance we have on each other. I mean, I think everyone in this community and otherwise knows that, my goodness, we really do have to rely on everyone. And communities need strong frameworks. Masons have always been part of the heavy lifting. Doug just told us about what he did in Concord there. Every lodge has a story like that. The beehive, which is a symbol in Masonry, we talk about the beehive, is not just a symbol, it is real. And what the beehive is, as you can imagine, workers doing things, swarming, getting something done, and then going on to the next project. Men need a safe place to improve, exchange ideas, and congregate. That photo below is some of that beehive. That's my driveway. That's my garage. And what happened, July 12th, I fell down my stairs and I tore both my quad tendons. So I couldn't walk. I think about that, and I'll tell you, it just, when it happened, I thought to myself, oh my God, I was just washing the stairs, and I slipped. I had sneakers on, I slipped, and I tore them, and luckily it wasn't painful. What was painful is right away I thought, oh my God, what's Debbie gonna do? What's this? There's so many things to think about. And then I remembered that I had my brothers, and these guys came into the house and they just rearranged. You can't see it because of what I have, but they rearranged this. I'm in my basement office. They rearranged this whole place, got me a hospital bed, set this whole thing up. They got everything for me. Debbie didn't have to really think about it. And then, they brought food, they brought gifts, they brought flowers, they brought drinkable things, fruit and nuts and everything you can imagine. And I can't tell you how important they were to me. I love these guys. That's what a fraternity is about. That's what Masonry is about. I didn't have to ask. When I didn't need it anymore, guys from the 15th district, basically over in Framingham and Holliston and whatever, came to my house, took the hospital bed, brought the hospital bed to my mother-in-law's apartment in Waltham, set it up, took her bed apart, and it needed to be thrown out, threw that out. And of all those guys, there must have been about 9 guys. I knew one of them. I just knew one of them. All the others were simply my brothers, and they're friends that I just didn't know yet. And I can't tell you what a feeling that was. I mean, that's a feeling every community wants. I mean, we have great things here in Wayland and in Lincoln and in Concord, and great organizations, and and there are people in the town, we know who they are, who do the heavy lifting, and they're great. But let me tell you, Freemasonry is all about that. The Masonic ideals that we instill in every candidate and each of us is part of that, being part of that group, helping your community, helping your brothers, and helping yourself, improving yourself. So yeah, I did need them. They came to my rescue, and I continue to thank them. And luckily that all happened during COVID, so I didn't miss a whole lot. So it was actually perfect timing, but I'll tell you, it was fantastic. Next little slide. Masonic secrets. Well, I think we gave you a couple secrets in there. We talked about, does anyone know the full name of the Shriners? Does anyone know the full name of the Shriners? Everyone talks about the Shriners. By the way, again, you can't be a Shriner without being a Mason first. So if you want to help out in the hospital or do things for the Shriners, you can't do that. You have to be a Mason first, and then you can do that. But there's a very, very long name that the Shriners are actually called, and most people don't know it. I'll tell it to you, and not a lot of people know it. It is the Ancient Arabic Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. Doug, did you know that?
I think I did, but I've long since forgotten.
It's one of those things. Exactly. It's one of those things that people.
That's one group I have not joined.
And they have you not joined that?
I haven't.
Oh,
because I'm in all the others.
I know you have, and you're very involved with that. That will be the next thing you'll join. By the way, most people know the Shriners building in this area, where they meet and do all sorts of things, up in Wilmington, where they have the circus and they have home shows. Right now, that's a injection center for one of the
vaccination center.
Vaccination center. That's right. So these are just some of the I talk about secrets, but there's a upper left. There's one of the aprons. We wear aprons because aprons are what the real operative Masons wore, right? You wore because they were digging they were putting together things. They needed to hold tools. So every Mason in lodge wears a apron. So we like to say real men wear aprons. On the other side there is kind of one would call the structure of Freemasonry. It's kind of small, but up top there you can see the Knights Templar. Really, when you become a Master Mason, that's the highest that you can be. That's what we say. But there are so many other things you can do. I won't go into all of it. You can find them out there. But once you become a Mason, you can be busy every night if you want it. And Masons love to eat. I can tell you that.
And then some.
And then some. And we've got great. Almost every lodge has a caterer that comes in, or they do their own wonderful food. And my wife says to me, "This is fantastic." By the way, another thing that we, the kids are over for Christmas, and then all of a sudden they said, there was a knock on the door, and then my lodge delivered cookies, brownies, and cupcakes to every single member in the area. I was like, my kids were like, do the Masons do everything? I said, yes, we do. And then in the middle, you see the what myself and Doug are 32nd degree Masons. There is a 33rd, and you can only get it. It's bestowed upon you. You can't kind of get it. It's given to you. So there is one more level. That's secret to us. By the way, in that video, they showed in Grand Lodge, they showed a room with a billiards table in there, and I haven't seen that room. So that's a secret for me to find out. There's lots of rooms in that Grand Lodge, let me tell you.
There are.
And then over on the left-hand side, with the Latin phrase around it, is the symbol of the Knights Templar, which myself and Doug are. And the short, really 30-second story on that is Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th is Masonic in a way, because that's when Jacques de Molay, the head of the Templars, was burnt at the stake. And if I remember the story correctly, it was a fake pope, was it, Doug?
Well, the King of France rounded up all the Knights Templar.
That's right.
On a single day.
Yep.
And
Jacques de Molay said you'll both die within 1 year, and they both did.
Yeah.
Within 1 year. The Templars who escaped in their ships carrying the gold, and the theory is that they basically blended in with the Masons, which already had a network set up, and many of them were. So there was cross, interaction with that. So hence the reason why a lot of people think the Masons have some sort of treasure. I haven't found it. Doug, have you found it? Well, we both know what it is. The treasure.
I'm still looking. I have heard some great stories. Scott Walter. Do you remember Scott Walter?
Yes.
What was it? Unearthed America. He did he had a show on Discovery Channel.
Yes.
And he's got these theories. 70% of the Knights Templar escaped that Friday the 13th roundup. And where did they go? What happened to the money? So his theory is that some of them, they already had a network in America. So that's, that gave rise to like the Oak Island treasures and all these other stories, because it's clear that they were here in North America.
Yes.
Without a doubt, there are Templars. In Westford, there's a carving in a stone that's a Templar sword that's believed to be from the 1300s. So that
is correct. Oh yeah, we could go down the rabbit hole in that, but we won't do that.
The hour is getting late.
Exactly, the hour is getting late. Questions? There must be some additional questions out there, unless I may have answered all of them, or myself or Doug has.
Yeah, if folks want to, feel free to unmute or type in your question, show your video. Now's the time.
Now's the time. We're more than happy. Let us know.
Seems like you've answered everything.
I love answering everyone's. And by the way, we have Wayland people at Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge, which is in Lincoln. Corinthian is right down the street from us in the middle of Concord. We have folks from, you know, everywhere, Sudbury, Weston. Not every town has it. There are roughly, I want to say 40,000, 50,000 Masons in Massachusetts. There are approximately 260 lodges throughout Massachusetts with that. Well, here's one. How would you deal with transgender men that want to become Masons? Transgender men can become a Mason if they, and I say that with a qualification that different jurisdictions do different things with that. Because I know also with homosexuality is a couple of, or a few jurisdictions. When I say jurisdiction, I'm talking about a state that disallow that. But with transgender men, my understanding is that as long as they're a man or transition to a man, they can join. If they transition back, or they cannot join, or they would be expelled. And same thing if a woman came and said, "Well, I'm a man," really, they could not be. It's how you're presenting yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of others.
Do we have dues? Yes, we do. Relatively inexpensive. They differ from lodge to lodge. Right now, Grand Lodge dues we have to pay Boston $62 a year, I think it is, and then anything above and beyond that is usually the lodge chooses, and it's usually somewhere 2 to 3 times that amount. So I think a typical amount is probably somewhere around $200 a year. Yeah,
I would say that. It fluctuates. I think just in general, anywhere between $150 and $500 a year. But generally in this area, it's probably averages around 200, give or take.
Yeah.
Well worth it. And you know, we're lucky here in the 14th. The lodges that we discussed, all these lodges are very healthy. You know, most of the lodges have, you know, rather large trust or endowments, so they can do what they need to do for themselves and for the community, and that's important. There's a lot of organizations in different towns that struggle with fundraising, struggle with helping. You need boots on the ground. We have boots on the ground, but you also need cash to get things done as well. And the Masons are ready to help. What else?
What kind of time commitment is it to join, to become a Mason?
Well, 1 night a month, right, John? It's 1 night a month.
That's the joke. That's an inside joke. It's 1 night a month. What could go wrong? Although it is 1 night a month. Typically, the meetings are 1 night a month. There's a rehearsal if there's candidates. That's another night. And then if you're an officer, that's another night. And then if you want to do different things, you can be busy every night of the week, and I kid you not, if you wanted to. So it's really up to you. And no one's going to look over your shoulder or force you and say, hey, if you become an officer, there's certain commitments that you do have. There's ritual, there's some memorization. The ritual that we do is the same ritual when George Washington became a Mason. I mean, it's amazing to think about. The history that we carry on our shoulders is fantastic. But it really is. It totally is up. There are some people who, some members who will sit on the sidelines, we call it, sideline members, and enjoy dinner and enjoy getting together with everyone. They might go to a couple of events, and that's it.
And there's some members who don't go to, who go to just the social events.
Yeah.
And you know, they contribute money when they can, and they help out. One of them donated the grandfather clock today to the lodge. He's moving. But yeah, it's whatever inspires you or the brother.
Correct.
And yes, we do have different handshakes.
Yes, different handshakes for different degrees, and also different handshakes within those degrees, right, Doug?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There's past grips. There's grips.
Yeah.
And that's just the regular, you know, the first 3 degrees, and then you get into York Rite and Scottish Rite,
And
Then
it's
your
subtle.
head starts to explode because it's just too much.
Yeah, and some of these are subtle. Some of these are subtle grips. So I've shaken someone's hand and I'll look at them and say, "Are you a Mason?" A lot of times, of course, they'll just see that, and that's pretty clear. And also, I've if I'm around Wayland, you probably have seen me because I'm, if I'm not wearing my Masonic hat, I've got my ring. If I'm not the ring, it's my shirt, whatever. But I'll tell you, 3-4 times over at Einstein's Bagels, I've gotten my bagels for free because a brother in front of me said, "I'm paying for that guy with the funny thing on his hat." And then we have a nice conversation, and you meet another friend. Another quick story: I was in Italy with the family. We went to a winery, and we were in an Etruscan tomb. We were having a wonderful brunch, and the owner of the winery came over, and he wanted to discuss the wines and so forth. So he's discussing a wine. He stopped, and I noticed he was looking at my ring. He said, "Are you a Mason?" I said, "Yes." He ran away, and I was thinking to myself, well, this is either going to turn out really well or very, very bad. He runs back with this gorgeous reserve bottle of wine that he had made for the Grand Master in Italy, and they had a meeting there, and he gave it to me. He wanted me to bring it back and have it at a special time, and he said, "Anytime you're back in Italy, please stay with me. I will put you up here at my villa." So you never know. The brothers.
That's more common than you may think.
Yeah, it's more exactly. Well, down in Bermuda with your Bermuda.
Yeah, place. I'll never have a hotel in Bermuda again.
No, I mean, no. That's what happens. The brothers want to help you. You feel like you have another family, and that is so special. And for a guy to have this family of men that he can relate to, that he can ask things of, he can be helped by, he can help them, and then they can all help each other and the community. That is special. That's the benefit of Freemasonry, is what you can give to each other and the community. Anything else?
That sounds like the perfect note to end on.
Didn't it? I just wrapped it up.
Because you can't serve breakfast on Zoom, John.
That's right. Otherwise would be, yeah.
But I do want to say thank you so much to both of you from the library and from Wayland for enlightening us on Masonry tonight.
It's been a lot of fun.
It's a great fun, and if anyone wants to contact me, they can, john.toto@live.com. Most people know me. They can look me up, Joseph Warren-Soley Lodge, and of course, Doug Ellis at Corinthian Lodge, concordmasons.org. Right?
Yeah, I would say concordmasons.org. Go in the guest book. That goes directly to me instantly. So,
perfect. And I will take you for a tour of Joseph Warren-Soley if you so wish, just like Doug, and I will show you the greatest lodge ever.
Wonderful.
But do you have a Paul Revere charter?
Oh, okay. You bring that up.
Oh.
You do.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Okay.